No GT Real Muto. No Kyle Schwarber, sorta. Still no Trey Turner. Bryce Harper gets hit in the head with a throwback from the catcher. And still the Phillies find a way to win. This Phillies team is shaping up to be something special. What else is special? The Sixers offseason is shaping up to be pretty special. We got a special guest, Mark Perner, formerly of the Philadelphia Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, Morning Call, is going to be joining us to talk Sixers offseason. And after 35 years of experience, we're going to talk with him about the state of the local and national media. It is going to be a must-listen to interview. He'll be joining us in about 30 minutes' time. Trending in the AM, taking your thoughts on the Phillies, the Sixers, Bron, and anything else you want to talk about. We're live in 60 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Edge of Philly Sports. We are live. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You know the drill. Hit those like, share, subscribe, retweet, follow buttons. Wherever you are watching active, get sharing the show. Tell one, tell all, tell a friend to jump in the conversation as we talk Phillies, Sixers, the state of Philadelphia media and national media, and lots else. Maybe not too much football today, TMZ. Maybe not too much. We spent a lot of time on football yesterday, so we might ease off the football. We have a basketball and media-centric guest coming on in about 30 minutes. So we're gonna dive into some basketball. We're gonna do some conversation there as well. We are going to talk about the Phillies here to kick off the show as they continue to win and continue to win regularly. Can't say enough positive and good things about our fighting Phils right now. So we are going to get into that as well. You put your football questions up there. When the guest is not there, I will address them, TMZ, as always, because I take care of all my regulars. Okay, we are brought to you here at Trending in the AM by SherryTickets.com. Great moments don't just happen. They happen with you in the crowd. SherryTickets.com is easy to use with no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Pay less, play more. SherryTickets.com and get the tickets you want. You can use special promo code EOP10. That's EOP10 at checkout. And on top of no hidden fees, save an additional 10%. If you need a more personal approach, you can call them 610-494-5050. Let them know EOP and Trending in the AM sent you. Again, don't overpay with the rest. Save with the best. SherryTickets.com. Again, promo code EOP10. I'm your host every single morning here, Phil Stiefel, Trending in the AM. You can find me at Bearded Knowledge on all social media platforms. If I'm there, that's where you find me. And let's kick it off with some of my thoughts on the Phillies. Like I said, we got Mark Perner joining us shortly. So I'm going to save some of my Sixers conversation to the lead into him joining us because obviously the Bronny news is kicking up, which means the LeBron news is kicking up. So we will be talking Sixers offseason with a guy that's covered the team, edited writers that have covered this team, worked with some of the greatest of all time, Phil Jasner, that has covered this team. So he knows his basketball, and he's a big fan. And again, he's a well-traveled former media member in this great city. So we'll save that for a little bit. Last night, our fighting Phils beat the New York Mets 5-4 in the 10th inning, extra inning affair yesterday in a game that just spelled loss. Just spelled loss. And what did the Phillies do? They came back and win in extra innings. They are now 42 games into this season. Okay. And they lost the first 2 games of the season to the Atlanta Braves. Since then, this Philadelphia Phillies team has only had a losing streak once. Since losing the first 2 games. Last night, JT Realmuto being extra cautious. He's got a sore knee. He's out. Kyle Schwarber's still dealing with his issues. He was out. I know he pinched hit, but I don't even know if I like that idea of him pinch hitting last night in that situation. But, whatever. He was out. Trey Turner's still on the injured list. You just lost a tough game to the Marlins on Sunday. You got 3 of your 4 best hitters out of the lineup. And what do the Phillies do? They fall behind, but never give up and find a way to win. Bryce and Stott with a huge home run in the 9th inning to start it. That dude is tearing. His slow starts end it, which is fantastic. And everybody that needed to step up, stepped up. Alec Boehm taking one for the team. Big hit from Cody Clemens after the Stott homer. Everything necessary to win a baseball game. Never giving up. The bullpen did their job, held the score to where it was. Ryan Kirkgreen, straight dominating. Again, Alvarado, a clean 9th or 10th inning. Soto, Ruiz, both solid in relief. Sir Anthony Dominguez, that's something we got to talk about at some point. Chris Sanchez, I don't know how much longer we're going to see. I mean, he looked good, but not great last night. I guess if he's your 5th starter, it's not that big of a deal. But it just, the individual performances last night were very good. There were moments and people last night that exceeded expectations, that did their job. I mean, they only had 8 hits. They only had 12 base runners. There were some offers in the lineup. But it's this team this team has just got this knack to not want to give up. And that when somebody's going bad, Alec Boehm, his average dropped from like 360 to like 320. Bryce and Stott steps up. Whenever someone is down, someone steps up. And we're now, I've been talking about this stat for almost 2 weeks now, that we have only had 1 losing streak since the first 2 games of the season. 1993 vibes right here. A team that knows how to not give up. A team that knows that they're never out of a game, whether they're down a run or whether they're down 3, 4 runs. Oh, when they were down big on Sunday, I didn't think the game was over. I mean, it almost was. But I didn't give up. I still believed in it. I still thought that this team could pull it out. And why? Because that is the type of baseball team that they are. They have that never give up, never surrender attitude. And that's what we love. TMZ bringing in the football. Bill's about to sign who? Who cares? I don't. Too many NBA games in the playoffs. I don't know if there's too many games. The best of 7 series are what they are. They're just spread out too far. And, I could draw a parallel to last night's Phillies win and the NBA playoffs because both have terrible officiating. The refs in the NBA, atrocious, all playoffs, not just for the Sixers, for all teams, inconsistently bad. The umpiring last night was atrocious. The umpiring, I won't lie. We might not come back and win last night if the umpire behind home plate in that Phillies game wasn't so damn bad in the 9th inning. I mean, he missed quite a few calls for and against us. We've still got a massive officiating issue in not one sport, but all sports. NFL, it's crazy to think at this point that the officiating in the NBA or in the NFL is the least of my issues, the least of my concerns out of those 3 major sports. Because across the board, in baseball and basketball, it is atrocious. Saw it again last night. And I hate the idea of it. I hate it. But I get it. I hate the idea of robot umpires in baseball. But honestly, if you want to know, if you want an argument or you want a case study to prove that robot umpires in baseball are the way to go, watch last night's Phillies game. Just watch last night's 9th inning. And you can tell. Celtics are about to close out. Yeah, the Celtics are going to the finals. Which is higher? Phil Algo with baseball or Red Lobster Oh, stop. You know what? There was over 1,500 viewers just on Facebook alone yesterday. Just so you know. Well, the highest viewed shows in recent memory are trending in the AM. Over 1,500 Facebook views. That doesn't count the 100-plus YouTube views. That does not count the Twitter views, the 2 or 3 people on Twitch. So, you know what? I'm not worried about it. The algorithm will work itself out. Great show. A great show like Trending the AM will take over the airwaves even more than it has as I continue to just pump out good content, which is crazy because yesterday wasn't my best day. Today ain't my best day either. I'm dragging this week. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I feel iffy to begin with. I'm still pumping out great content every single day here. I can honestly say I wish Sixers were still in it. I wish the Sixers were still in it. I am not, but I am over the Sixers at this point. I guess I'm over it to an extent. I'm excited to talk with today's guest in about 20 minutes about the Sixers, but we'll see what happens. What is up, Adam? Good to see you this weekend. Thanks to one of the Core 12 for coming out to support me. Did you talk football? Yesterday was football and baseball. I guess when I don't watch, you get great ratings. Makes me feel bad. Well, my YouTube ratings were a little low yesterday, Duck. You and Eric, weren't in the conversation yesterday. But the Facebook ratings were boom through the roof. Phil is unstoppable. I'm trying to be unstoppable. Ain't no stopping me now. And ain't no stopping PhillySportsTrips.com. If you're a Philly sports fan and you want to travel with your favorite team, then travel with the best. Travel with PhillySportsTrips.com. They feature premium travel and tailgating experiences for the best fans ever. Us Philly fans. Self-travel packages, full travel packages available for Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Union, you name it. They offer it. Day trips or week-long trips like this to Brazil to see our Eagles take on the Green Bay Packers August 30th through September 8th. Go to PhillySportsTrips.com. Sign up and tell them EOP and Trending in the AM sent you. Do not forget, PhillySportsTrips.com. I mean, if you don't want to go to Brazil, you can do a bus trip to Boston to see the Phillies play the Red Sox. They got probably a day trip here to Baltimore on June 15th to see our Phillies. They got one to Chicago. I wish it wasn't 4th of July weekend, or I would be going on this one. So make sure you check them out. PhillySportsTrips.com. Let them know EOP and Trending the AM sent you. The algo is an immovable object. The algo is something, but I don't really care. I do care. I shouldn't say I don't care. I do care because mastering the algorithm gets more people here, which gets more views, which helps build us up. But you know what? I'm trying not to pay attention to viewership. I'm not. I'm trying to just do great content day in and day out, but it's hard when you see 1,500 people watch you. No. I teed myself up for PhillySportsTrips.com. True. Is LeBron to Philly a thing or a rumor? Well, it's a rumor. It is definitely a rumor, Adam. And it is one that as soon as my guest, Mark, joins us here in about 15 minutes, we are going to ask him. This is going to be not Paul George, not Jimmy Butler, LeBron. That is going to be the biggest topic of the NBA offseason, period. Plain and simple. And everybody's going to talk about Bronny and drafting him to sway the opinion of LeBron on where he goes in free agency. I know the kid wants to play, the guy wants to play with his kid, but I would be shocked if that is the determining factor, really. I know everybody wants to say, well, whoever drafts Bronny gets LeBron. No. If Detroit goes out there at 5 and drafts Bronny James, LeBron ain't going to the Pistons. If the Lakers draft him, he's not going to stay. I think he wants out of L.A. I do think it's a feasible conversation that it's not unrealistic to think that LeBron James can be in Philadelphia next season. I wouldn't put it at the top of the list of likeliest scenarios, but I think it's a scenario that Josh Harrison, Daryl Morey are going to examine and dig deep into. I think they are going to look at the realistic possibility of it. I do. You can bring LeBron James in here. He's just looking for more titles. You can look at it. Now, I think there'll be quite a few teams looking at it. And I think there's a lot of different scenarios that can play out. But I think that there's going to be 4, 5, 6 teams interested in his services. You got to determine the fit of LeBron here in Philadelphia with Maxey and Embiid. Is it right or not? I don't think it's that bad. LeBron or bust. I don't think that is Daryl Morey's philosophy. I think Daryl Morey's philosophy is superstar or bust, whether that's Paul George, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, or somebody else. Not the hero we deserve. Who do we deserve? We want LeBron and his son. LeBron's son, man. I don't get. He's not a good basketball. Well, I shouldn't say he's not a good basketball. He's not an NBA basketball player yet, Bronny. And honestly, him playing with his dad, I don't know if that would be good for him or actually quite bad for him. Because if he plays with his dad, all the hype is going to be around his dad and his son on the same team. He's not going to have the ability to grow up or develop as an adult. It's just going to be so much fanfare so quickly. It's going to be the same scenario of, quarterbacks that fail because they're not ready and they're thrust into the limelight too soon. Bronny should just go to college for another year or two. But I get it. Hold on. FOH with this Bron crap. He's washed. How in the world do you think LeBron is washed? LeBron is still at what is he, 38, 39 years old? Still one of the 5 or 6 best, not 5, maybe the top 10 basketball players in the NBA right now. That's how good he still is. And we're not getting the cherry just yet. Oh. I look at all Sixers free agents, trades, options, and I'm not crazy about any. Yeah, I mean, look, Brian, and make sure you guys go check out my man Brian O'Rourke, The Only Son. See that little picture there? It's one of many of his novels he has written. It's good to see Brian checking in this morning. I think that I have brought up the conversation, and it's not going to happen, but I would almost consider keeping pick 16, drafting a young player, someone that could step in and grow with Maxey. The way this offseason is going to play out, Brian, they're either going to spend big money on LeBron or Paul George, and Paul George is going to be a disaster, okay? 5 years or 4 years and 250, 300 million. It's going to set the franchise back. Trading everything for Jimmy Butler, set the franchise back. All the moves the Sixers can make are one-year moves. They're moves to win next year. But if you don't win next year, then you've got to strip it down. And based off of those moves, you're going to be back to the bottom barrel. You're going to be back to the process era if Daryl Morey misses this offseason. So let me tell you something. This is a scary offseason. I'm excited. I'm curious. My interest is peaked. But I'm scared too. And me being scared also comes down to the fact that I just don't trust Daryl Morey. Not one bit. I trust Daryl Morey 0 to make the right decisions. But you got the 3 big names. You got LeBron. You got Paul George. You got Jimmy Butler. I would rank them. I'll take LeBron out of those 3 big names first. I'll take Jimmy Butler second, Paul George third. And everyone's like, well, you could just sign Paul George. It doesn't cost you a draft pick. Well, you could just sign LeBron James. And I'd rather trade assets for Jimmy Butler and have Jimmy Butler for 2 years than 4 years of hell with Paul George. It's a shame, too, because I used to be a big Paul George fan. And I still like Paul George. I mean, he's had a great NBA career. But Paul George, I mean, he's 34. Paul George on a max deal, he's already barely playing 60 games a year. This team's going to be dreadful. The 10 games in the middle of the season when Paul George and Joel Embiid are sitting. LeBron's kid is not a great basketball talent. First off, he was listed at 6'4", and then what is the NBA combine going on right now? Something's going on. He measured in at 6'1". He did have the fourth highest vertical, but outside of that, he was below average in pretty much every measurable that was done on him. Plus, he's got health issues. I know he cleared his physical to play in the NBA, but he's got a heart issue, I believe it is. Look, LeBron James' kid is not ready. LeBron James' kid reminds me of not LaMelo Ball or Lonzo Ball. What was the third kid that barely made an NBA roster? Lorenzo Ball? Like, that's what I think of when I think of Bronny. All hype because of the family name. And the Ball family name was all hype and no talent other than LaMelo. But Bronny James is all hype because of the name, but no talent. Just like me saying I want it, Charlie Woods to make the Masters or qualify for the Masters. Kid's not ready for PGA Tour majors yet. Bronny James is not ready for the NBA. LeBron is still my top NBA player, top 5. Zion's not top 5. LeBron is still a top-tier player, without a doubt. I think if LeBron comes here, it will mess up the chemistry with Maxey and Embiid because LeBron will want to have the ball too much. Well, first and foremost, let's address this. Yeah, I think you got to look at that. James Harden, we said the same thing. But James Harden brought an extra level out of Tyrese Maxey. Maybe LeBron could do the same. LeBron maybe would want the ball, especially in crunch time. But also, on the flip side, maybe having Maxey and Embiid with him who can handle the ball and do other things, take some pressure off LeBron. Maybe it extends his career a little bit longer. I don't know how much longer LeBron even wants to play. He's still playing at an elite enough level. LeBron James right now is playing at a great level. I don't think it'll mess too much with the chemistry there. I do worry Maxey does have a tendency to defer to stars, and always has. I do not write books, but check out my man Brian O'Rourke. Just Google him on Amazon. You'll see all his great books. He's got so many different books that he's written, so many different genres. Make sure you check him out. If you thought the Harden move was bad, no. Totally different players, LeBron and Harden. First off, LeBron is one. LeBron is the second best basketball player in the history of the NBA. And you can't convince me I'm wrong on that. Okay? James Harden is not anywhere near the top 10 in the NBA history. All right? LeBron James has won titles. James Harden hasn't even played for a title. Don't think he's playing for one this year either. LeBron James does it all. He still scores. He still shoots. Still drives. He plays defense. He grabs rebounds. He can distribute. LeBron James is still an elite player. Now, I think that is not why Daryl Morey and Josh Harris want him. I think Daryl Morey and Josh Harris want LeBron James in Philly because then those luxury box ticket prices go up. Those court-sized tickets prices go up. That's why they want LeBron James. They're star hunting because they're money. They're businessmen. Bottom dollar, that's all that matters. Now, hopefully, Joel at the Olympics this summer does a little bit of, rubbing elbows with some stars and tries to convince somebody. I don't know. Chapter 2, a boy of Philly Street became a man. We won't have enough process BS. There is a direct line to NBA doing whatever they can to stop. That is true. That is true. They don't want us to win a title. Not at all. But LeBron will at least bring some different perspective and eyes. Red Lobster had that salad and cheddar biscuits at Lobster. I heard Caesar salad. What are we talking? What are you even talking about? Let's talk Eagles schedule rollout. Well, that rolls out Wednesday. Thursday, we will talk the schedule for sure. Probably Thursday and Friday. Just so you know. Jimmy Butler's getting older, and he's been getting hurt a lot. Yeah, I would take LeBron over Jimmy Butler in a heartbeat. The only reason why I take Jimmy over Paul George is because it's 2 years of an old player. versus 4 years of an old banged up player. I'd rather trade assets and get a player for 2 years than give a huge contract to a guy and be stuck with him for 4 years. If we sign Paul George to a max 4-year contract, let me tell you something. We are going to hate that more than the Ben Simmons deals, than the Tobias Harris. We will hate Paul George's contract 1,000 times more than the Tobias Harris contract. Without a doubt. No doubt about it. We need Phil to rank his top 5 NBA players. It's hard to do that. Where's Harden's team? Not playing. Yeah. Harden hasn't won anything. I agree. Exactly. So that's why that was such a disaster. Look out for them 304s. What? I don't even know what that is. Guys, you can't say things that I don't understand. Remember, I'm 43. I'm not cool. I don't know things like that. All right? I'm not smart. I don't know things. All right? But you know who does know things? David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. Okay? If you get hurt at work or in a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or affected by criminal law, call David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. Cherry Law Firm is here to fight for you and get you what you deserve. They're a dedicated, well-established personal injury law firm built on the promise of aiding the seriously injured throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Call them 610-565-0300. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let David R. Cherry fight for your rights. Let him know you heard about him right here on Train the AM and on EOP Sports. Again, 610-565-0300 or cherryinjurylaw.com. That's David R. Cherry. See, I've teed myself up, I think, pretty damn well twice today now, maybe even 3 times. I think I'm killing myself. I'm setting my own ad reads up with perfect segues. I'm nailing it today. You gotta like that. You gotta like the way I've performed on the ad reads today, because that's all that matters. And that's a perfect segue too, because with ad reads, with reading in general, we've got our special guest joining us here today, Mark Perner of the Morning Call, the Philadelphia Daily News, and Philadelphia Inquirer, writer, editor, copy editor, layout editor, everything. Mark and I just started recently chatting on Twitter, on social media about the Sixers. So I wanted to bring Mark on to talk a little basketball, talk a little offseason. And we're going to talk a little bit of media, about the media and the state of it in this city now. Good morning, Mark. How you doing?
Fine. So this is what 8:30 in the morning looks like.
Dude, I don't know how I do it. I told you, I run a pizza shop, so I work all day till late hours, and I get my butt up at 6:30 every morning to set up and do this. I don't know what. Tell me I'm crazy for doing this every single morning.
You're passionate.
Okay, passionate. That's just another word for crazy, but that's okay. So we've been spending, I was trying to save Sixers talk till you got on, but the commenters have really jumped into this Sixers conversation from the get-go here, because obviously yesterday LeBron James and his son Bronny James's name have been all over the news with his workouts and stuff like that. Let's start with LeBron himself. We've heard Daryl Morey say he is going to basically be star hunting this offseason. 3 biggest names: LeBron James, Paul George, probably Jimmy Butler in a trade. Start with LeBron James. What would you think are the possibility, but also the pros and cons of someone like LeBron coming to Philly? 0? Okay. And why is that?
Well, first of all, I don't think he's going to be cited at Malvern Prep again, as he was last time. As soon as the season ended, I talk basketball with my son all the time. And he's always looking from it from a different perspective, which is always good. And as soon as the season was over, I texted him and I said, basically, let the LeBron circus begin. He, how do I put this? He loves to create drama surrounding him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's not playing, he still wants all the talk about him. And the one way to keep the talk about him is to have his son Bronny involved. As you said earlier, the kid's not ready. This is all about LeBron's dream of playing with his son. He's definitely not taking the best interest of his son at heart. Just leave him the hell alone and let him grow up and let him be himself. But even when he was playing AAU, LeBron always made sure he was there and the cameras were on him and all that stuff. I don't want to be any part of that circus. Right now, the Sixers are built around Maxey and Embiid. And if you bring in LeBron, all of a sudden Maxey becomes your third option. Can't do that. Just can't, especially for a 39-year-old guy who is an absolute control freak and will want to come in and will want you to bring in this guy and bring in that guy. Well, how's that worked in LA? Don't tell me you won a championship, because that's that summer league championship that they won means absolutely nothing. Um, and I don't want any parts of LeBron. I want guys in here who want to be here, who aren't here just as a money grab. And it's the only way you win. When you look at just like with the Eagles and that super team that they brought in a bunch of guys who were chasing the money and had no interest in being an Eagle. You need to bring in guys who want to be here, want to be part of something special. And I don't think LeBron's that guy. I'm a Jimmy
I
Butler
want you to
guy.
touch on one thing there, because you
Yeah.
said something a few moments ago. It's been sitting in my mind about, I don't even think it's a good idea for LeBron and Bronny to be on the same team. Like,
Oh,
do you
no.
think that is? I mean, I don't think Bronny is ready to be in the NBA. I don't even know if he'll ever be ready to be in the NBA.
No.
But I think the pressure of playing alongside his father is going to thrust him into a position that could set him up for massive failure in his career, right?
Well, to me, this is all about what LeBron wants, not what the kid wants.
Mhm.
And you can't do that. That's not being a good parent. Um, you have to let the kid have his, create his own trail,
Mhm.
and I just saw that. And he's not doing that. This is all about him wanting to be the next Griffey,
Yeah.
Ken Jr., Ken Sr. He wants to be the first guy to play with his son in the NBA.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that was the plan from the day Bronny was born. And I mean, I'm not pretending here to know LeBron. I'm not, no, I don't have any inside information on that. But just from everything else that LeBron does, it's all about LeBron. Everything is all about LeBron. Um, and hey, he's great. I mean, probably the most talented player to ever play the game.
Okay.
But I'm not sure he's a winner. Jordan, Jordan was a winner.
Yeah.
Jordan would win at any cost, and he wouldn't ask for players. He would just say, "All right, guys, come on, follow me, and we'll win this." It took him a while. We had the Pistons and all that stuff to go through, but for me, greatness, you have the talent, and then the next level is, okay, how hungry were you to win when you played? To
Mhm.
me, that's always been a dividing line, and that's why I always look at Jordan and Bird and Magic Johnson and Bill Russell. Now look at those guys. It's just absolute greatness, because at the end of the day, it's all about winning.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're not playing fantasy leagues here. It's all about winning, and that's why they keep score. That's why they keep standings. That's why there's playoffs. It's all about winning. And if you can't if you can't lead your team to win, that drops you a bunch of notches to me.
What do you think about throw Embiid and Maxey into that conversation, talking about winners? Do you think they're winners? Do you think they won it more than, like, the way you're saying LeBron isn't a winner, Jordan was a winner? Where would you fit Embiid and Maxey into that? I know Maxey's still pretty young and early in his NBA career to fully judge, but at least Joel Embiid in that conversation.
If I'm being totally honest,
Yeah,
and
totally honest.
and I love I love
The
both.
tagline is where your opinions actually matter on this show. So all
I
opinions are warranted.
I'm a huge Embiid guy.
Mhm.
I'm a huge Maxey guy. Maxey showed me more in the series against the Knicks than Embiid has shown me in 5 years.
Okay.
When it comes to the playoffs, I mean, that kid won Game 5 by himself.
Mhm.
He was not allowing that team to lose. and that's how Embiid has to play. Now the problem with Embiid, though, when he gets to the playoffs, he's always banged up. He's always struggling. He's always fighting off something or other. I saw a lot more desire in the series against the Knicks than I've seen in any other season from him. And I think he felt a little bit more of the load this time than he did before, where before he would depend on Simmons, and then if it didn't work, it was basically Simmons' fault. Last year was Harden, and he saw what happened. We saw what happened there. I think this year he took a lot more accountability and really gave it his all this year. I mean, no one being objective, Embiid left nothing on the floor in those playoffs.
Mhm.
I mean, he gave it everything he had, and I truly believe that. That's what you need to win a championship. Now, I think if they would have faced any other team than the Knicks, I thought the Knicks were the worst matchup for the Sixers going into the playoffs. And it showed. But I think the Sixers gave the Knicks every single thing that they had. But it's hard, hopefully there's some New York fans watching this, but it's really hard to win when you're playing 8-on-5.
Well, yeah.
And
I love bringing that up on this show, not just in the NBA and baseball, just officiating in general is just so atrocious right now in sports. And I don't know if you were watching last night's Phillies game. I hate like the theory of like robot umpires, but if you watch just the ninth inning of the game, and it worked for the Phillies, but it was just atrocious. And it's the same thing against that series, and it's happening in the Knicks and Pacers series right now, and across the NBA in general. It's just bad. There's no accountability for officiating in sports right now.
And they're going to have to figure out a way to do it, because when you're in bed with the sports books and there's fans out there with money on the game, the first thing they're going to think of is the fix is in. And these NFL, NBA, all the pro leagues, they have to take that into account and understand that that's out there. That's out there. I mean, some of the calls I saw, and I'm not saying some didn't go the Sixers' way,
Right?
But there was a lot of game-deciding plays that went the Knicks' way, and I think refs are intimidated, especially at MSG, because when you listen to the games, you heard it last night at in City Field. The New York fans express their emotions rather loudly with oohs and ahs and like you.
I don't think they're saying ooh and ah. I think they're saying some other words.
No. My point is like when a call goes against them, you can feel it, you can hear it, you can, and I think some of the officiating, no matter what sport it is, are intimidated by that.
Okay, so back to the Sixers in this offseason. Obviously, if LeBron's not the equation, there's two theories, and I've seen a bunch of different comments, and I've been dabbling with this thought in my mind. We've got the 16th pick in the draft. Obviously, you've got Jimmy Butler, Paul George. You've got lots of options out there to sign, to trade for. But there's a theory in the thread where going out there and getting the big name and investing a massive amount of your assets in one big name might not be the best course of action. Really going out and finding, if you can do a really good job scouting someone at 16, going out there and signing 3 or 4 really good players to put around Embiid and Maxey, is that maybe a better course of action? Or are you still saying going out and getting one of the elite guys that is available is the best way to go?
Daryl Morey has set this up to build a stronger team. And no rookie, unless you got the first or second pick in the draft, no rookie is going to come in, and unless he's incredibly special, and contribute to a championship team. And that's what the goal is. The goal is to win a championship while Embiid is still standing. Okay. So for me, I would trade for one guy, and I would try to sign someone in free agency with the other money, and then whatever's left over, then you start building a strong roster. So, and if you still want to keep the hierarchy of Embiid and Maxey as your top 2 options, then you have to bring in a third guy who is going to be fine being that third option. You know, I don't want to jump. I am. I'm going to jump on the hell with Tobias thing. My thing is, if the Sixers had Anunoby instead of Tobias Harris, they
But
win that series in 5 games.
But see, I don't look at Anunoby as like on the same level as, say, a Paul George or a LeBron James.
Doesn't matter.
So that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. Like, I would rather almost go out and find 2 or 3 of those type players than go out, because LeBron is just a fun topic to talk about today because
Sure.
of the news yesterday. But Paul George, I think, is a realistic conversation piece from Daryl Morey and Josh Harris. Whether Paul George is using that as leverage or not, I don't know. But Paul George is a conversation to be had, and you bring up Tobias Harris. We give Paul George a 4-year max deal, which what's a max deal now? Almost $300 million for him. We're going to hate the Paul George contract 10 times more than the Tobias Harris contract when all is said and done. So I almost feel like going out and finding the OGs of the world, guys like that, find 3 of those, you're better off than 1.
Good luck.
Well, I know. Well, that's why Daryl Morey is supposedly an elite executive in the NBA. That's his job to find.
Yeah, it's difficult to do that. I mean, Anunoby is a freakish player, and my boy Will Rucker on Twitter loves Paul George, and I'm just not a Paul George guy. Now, the only way it works for me is when I think of, okay, well, instead of Tobias Harris, I'm going to have Paul George. That makes me better.
Yeah.
I get that. But then now you need a power forward. Do you bring Batum back? So my thing is, if you bring in a guy like Paul George, which is great, nice feather in the cap for signing him, is he happy being the third option here? That to me is the question going into free agency or going into, star hunting. Who's going to be a nice fit? Now, Jimmy Butler, I know he's 98 years old and all that stuff, and he's going to want $40,000 a year, 40 million, 40,000.
Sign him up right now.
That's going back to my childhood. He's going to want at least 40 million a year. But Jimmy can sit back and set everybody up and be happy in that third role and then step up when he needs to. That's what I like about Jimmy. So if they can find a player who can do that, then I'm totally cool with that. I mean, I look at a guy like Nick Batum. I didn't know he was that good of an overall player. That guy's IQ is off the charts. He doesn't have to score a point, and he can affect the game. That's the type of guys you need, especially in the playoffs. And I think they missed, although, I mean, I like the Lowry and Cameron Payne additions. So they kind of even off the whole Patrick Beverley thing. And thank God he was throwing stuff at people in Milwaukee and not here. Can you imagine if he was doing it here? But I think they missed Marcus Morris in the playoffs.
Yep.
And a guy like that who's going to do stuff for you, who do all the dirty work and things like that. So they need to build a strong roster, and that roster was strong in December before Embiid got hurt. That was a really solid, balanced roster, and that's what they need to do. So they need to find a really good replacement for Tobias. One guy I really, really, really like is DeJounte Murray. Now, I think he would be perfect next to Maxey because he's another guy. He can step back and he can step up. So and he's a really good defensive player. But Atlanta would be fools if they trade DeJounte Murray. But
do we even have the assets to trade? Like, if you're talking about Jimmy Butler because of the contract and the age, 16, 41, something else gets it done. DeJounte Murray's pretty young. It's going to take multiple picks, and
they got five first round picks they can trade.
Right. Well, are you willing to trade the max value to get somebody like DeJounte Murray to pair with Maxey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, I've been on the fence about him since the rumor. I think last offseason there were rumors about Murray on the block. So I've been discussing about it for a while, and I've been on the fence of what I feel like his value really would be in a trade.
Well, what do you want at the end of the day? I mean, what you're going to use those picks to draft kids. If you're going to be good, you're going to be drafting 20,
Mhm.
25,
True.
and who you're going to get. I mean, they were lucky with they were incredibly lucky with Maxey that it was a COVID year.
Mhm.
If that was a full year, Maxey goes top 10, and that's not even in hindsight. Like he was he was really really good. He for somehow he just kept on dropping because all the other GMs thought they were smarter than everybody else, and we're we're reaching for guys and so forth, and he kept dropping. Um, I didn't even look at him that year because I thought there was no way that they would get him. So when I was looking at players, at guards especially, I was looking at Desmond Bain.
Mhm.
I was looking at actually Isaiah Joe. I was looking at like those guys who could come in and fit in right away. And then when Maxey dropped to them, it was like, whoa, what, who is this guy? I had to do my homework on him because I didn't even looked at him. So you've got to be really, 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 really good in the draft. But if you look at Maury's history, he's always trading his first round picks.
Well, I think that's a
Um,
great segue to the biggest part of us all is, do you trust Daryl Morey then?
no.
That's it. Show's
Um,
over. Thanks for watching, guys. Because that answers it all.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
we've been interacting only for a short period of time on social media, but I've been criticizing Daryl Morey since the day that picture of him and Doc Rivers in that office with the window in the background, the day they got hired, started circulating. I've been saying it since day one. What has Daryl Morey ever done? And this is the most critical offseason, of in a long, long time for the Sixers organization, and I just don't trust them.
No, no. The last time they had one of those summers, they didn't have a GM, and they let Butler and Reddick go.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Horford and Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And the summer before that, when there were some issues, they let Mikal Bridges go.
Yeah.
And that was done by ownership. Everyone thinks it was Brett Brown, but that trade was done behind Brett Brown's back, from everything I've heard. So look what happened. If they would have had Bridges, everything changes.
Yeah.
Like one pick like that, everything changes. And this is that off season. This is the season that Morey's put all of his eggs in one basket, and he's on the clock. I mean, he should be on the clock. Um,
Do you think
now,
he is on the clock? If he messes it, I mean, they gave him last offseason extension to match Nick Nurse's contract. So, he's on the hook for the next 4 or 5 years. Is he really on the hot seat right away?
if there's a better option out there, absolutely. I bring Bob Myers in. If Morey doesn't do the job, I got to bring Bob. I got to bring somebody in. But the only problem is, if you bring somebody in, he's going to be stuck with two $40 million contracts
Mm-hmm.
that he won't be able to trade.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
no, that's why I keep saying if he goes out there, that's why I keep thinking big picture. Maybe not going out and getting Paul George and getting all these big names and invest. I mean, you're going to be screwed if you trade all 5 first-round picks this offseason, are stuck with three $50 million players. And let's not forget, Joel Embiid, I believe, has only got 2 years left on his contract. He's going to be looking for
no,
more
he's
money
going
as
to sign
well.
an extension this offseason. He's
Yeah,
going to
that's
sign a
exactly what I'm
huge
saying. Like,
extension.
there's a lot of money that's going to get thrown around this offseason. And
Yeah,
if it's to the wrong players, Daryl Morey
yeah,
might get fired, but then this team is going to go into a very dark period after Daryl Morey gets fired.
yeah. If he makes the wrong moves, it sets the franchise back 5 years,
Yeah.
at least. Probably more than that, because in 5 years, MP's going to be retired.
Yeah, not necessarily gone from the Sixers, like retired pretty much at this point.
Well, he's going to be 35.
Yeah.
It was in his 30th year now, right? So he'll be close to 35. So he's a year or two away. So um, I think Morey is a better tinkerer than he is a builder.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And like even that trade he made with the Clippers, that was a really good trade. It was a great trade. I mean,
Yeah.
he brought in all those expiring contracts, but guys who could contribute. Although Covington decided not to play after December,
He played 2
I,
games total, it feels like.
I've never seen a bruised knee last that long. But hey, tis what it is. He hasn't proven that he can build a championship team. So this is his chance. Now, if it was me, I would look to bring in a couple of guys who maybe one big contract and one smaller contract. And one of the guys I would go after is Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso is only making $9 million a year. Now, you trade, a one and some twos, and bring Caruso in. He's the perfect guy next to Maxey because he doesn't need the ball. He's going to play solid defense. He can hit open shots, and he ain't going to cost you that much. Now, with that, now you go out and you sign another guy. Let's say you even bring Murray in. Well, you can't bring Murray in if you're bringing in Caruso. But let's say you bring another guy making 25 or 30. All right, so that's 44 million. You still got almost 20 million to go out and get somebody. And the guy I want, and it's funny because I've been saying it on X Twitter for quite a while, and I see Kyle Neubeck mentioned it the other day, and that's Valanciunas.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. That was gonna because somebody was asking about you were saying Joel and 5 years left. People saying about his knees. The backup center role has to be focused on, but in a different philosophy. Because I feel like Paul Reed at times has been a fine backup to Joel when Joel's around. But Paul Reed can't start when Joel misses 20 games. You've
No,
got to think about the backup center role in the sense where can that guy play 30 minutes a game 20 times a year? And they've
correct.
never, well, they did briefly when they had Andre Drummond here. But outside of that, they've never had that guy that can step into his shoes. Nobody's going to step into Joel's shoes completely, but,
No,
play that role. I mean, if we had gotten Drummond at the deadline, I don't even think we're at the spot of where we were in the
correct.
playoffs because we probably
They're
win
still
3 or
playing.
4 more games. We get into that 5 or 4 seed and the whole thing changes. So
Yeah.
focusing on the backup center in a different way has got to be a priority, right?
The problem with Paul Reed, and it's not Paul Reed's fault. The
No.
problem with Paul Reed is that the drop off from Embiid to Reed
Mm-hmm.
is just too steep for the Sixers to overcome because everything goes through Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
So now when he's out of there, they bring in another guy who you can funnel stuff through, and Paul Reed ain't that guy. And that's the problem. The drop off is just way too steep. It's Grand Canyon steep,
Yeah.
and it's something that they have to address. You bring in a guy like Valanciunas. Now people are saying he's going to want money. I can't see teams nowadays spending big money on centers,
Yeah.
unless it's Embiid or Jokic or somebody like that. I mean, even Zubac would be a good guy. Zubac should be
Yeah.
a good guy to bring in. But does Valanciunas want to get paid or does he want a ring?
Yeah.
And he comes here.
He's up there in age too, right? He's got to be pushing
I think
34,
he's like
35.
33.
Okay. I feel like he's been playing basketball for like 30 years now. So
He probably has been.
probably, yeah. I want to get your thoughts on one other thing with the Sixers before we move on here. And
Sure.
that's on Nick Nurse. I think people are giving Nick Nurse a pass, and I'm not saying anything negative about him, but I'm trying to get more and more people's opinions on, quote unquote, if you want to give him a grade for his first Sixers, season. Like, do you think he did a good job coaching? Do you think he deserves any criticism for the way the last couple weeks, months of the season went? Were you happy with his performance as the coach this year?
Yeah, because it kind of reminded me when Larry Brown came here, and it went and when the Sixers were terrible his first year, you can see what he was trying to do. And it's the same thing with Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse kept that team together.
Okay.
That team could have fallen apart. I mean, every week there was somebody else who was getting hurt, and he kept that team together. And the fight that they showed in the playoffs was Nick Nurse to me. I think he knows how to get the most out of his players, and we haven't seen that since Larry Brown. And yeah, I can see what Nick Nurse is trying to do.
Okay. Well, that's good to
Even
know.
little things like with just play. It's almost like with Buddy Hield, and everyone now thinks that we should hold on to it. It was one game. It was like the Daniel House game from last year. Like
You're speaking my language. I'm a secret Daniel House stan. So,
So it's
isn't
like,
that what the cool kids call it? Stan? I think that's what they say.
but yeah, like it's like Doc Rivers wanted credit for playing Daniel House. Well, why weren't you playing him before?
Right.
Um, but with Buddy, I understand, and I think with Buddy, um, he, he I think he tried to fit in too much,
Mm-hmm.
and he lost his game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, if they can get him on a cheaper contract, yeah, I'd bring him back, but I ain't giving him more than 8-9 million. I just can't afford that. I don't
I
think he's
think
the guy.
people overthink about what Buddy Hield's a shooter. You know what I mean? Everybody saw his
Correct.
first 3 or 4 games, and he was scoring 20 plus points. Driving, playing defense. What we saw in those first 4 games was not who Paul or Buddy Hield was. So I think people misinterpret who he was. And yeah, if you get him cheap enough, bring him back. Who if you had to prioritize 2 or 3 guys, because pretty much the entire team's a free agent right now. Who would be the guys you want Daryl Morey to retain? Buddy Hield, campaign, Kyle Lowry, Batum. I think Batum's on everybody's short list if he decides to continue playing in the NBA.
Yeah, I want Batum and Payne.
Right.
I like Lowry, not necessarily as a player, but in a leadership role in the locker room, a guy who I can bring in, when things aren't going great or whatever. Almost using like a TJ McConnell
Yeah.
type. Now, if they can upgrade from Kyle Lowry, I'm fine with that too. Like the Sixers aren't going to win a championship with Kyle Lowry getting 25, 30 minutes a game.
No.
But you love the way he plays. I love the way he talks to his teammates and gets in people's faces and stuff like that. So Lowry for sure. Melton, I'm not sure about. See, the problem is here's the problem. Like to get that $61 million in cap space, you have to renounce guys,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to re-sign them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you could lose some guys. Now, Campaign was playing on a minimum contract anyway, so he's probably not looking for a whole lot of money. And I forgot Kelly Oubre.
Oh yeah, that I forgot about him too already.
And Kelly Oubre is
Kind
a
of feel
guy
like
that
he's got to be back.
you have to. He seemed to love the situation here. He talked highly of Nick Nurse, and he's all about. He said he'd rather be happy than rich, type of thing, which is fine. And you can also tell he's his own agent at this point. So, and I'm not sure that's the right thing for him to say going into negotiations. But there's probably also, I think the Sixers have a good shot at getting him back. I'm not sure what the CBA is with him on the 1 year deal, but the Sixers under the cap. I'm not sure if that gives him some more flexibility signing him. Because I know when you sign a 1 year deal, you can only get like 125% raise after that. So I'm not 100% sure what the CBA is with that. But
You're
Oubre is a
talking to the wrong
guy.
guy here because I don't understand CBAs or contracts or salary caps at all. Math was never my subject growing up at Holy Cross. So
No, hell, the CBA to me was the old basketball league, the Continental Basketball Association. That's about all I know on that. But so Oubre's a guy. I tell you what, I did not want them to sign Kelly Oubre. I thought Kelly Oubre was a hack. I thought he was a gunner. I thought he was a guy who never met a shot he didn't like. What I saw from Kelly Oubre this year, the effort that he gave every game, I was really, really impressed. Because to me, it comes down to effort. Everything else will work its way out. But if you come in and give effort and give consistent effort,
mm-hmm.
that's all a coach can ask for. So I don't think there'll be a whole lot of other suitors for Kelly. I think he is looked around the league as a flake. I think the bike accident or whatever accident that he had um, has also put him in a different light where some guys don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Sixers will have a good chance of bringing him back.
I think the car accident, and then then he wreck his Lamborghini or something like that in the playoffs or something like that. Like that almost is like I'm almost done talking Sixers, but it's almost like a perfect segue about like talking about the media and getting stories and doing things. Like we still don't really truly know everything about that
Yeah.
bike accident. Like, me and you were chatting, privately, and you mentioned Phil Jasner, and the guy was like a legend to me. Like I never missed reading a Phil Jasner article, and you said that guy would stay up 24 hours straight to get the scoop on a story. Nobody tried to get the scoop on what really happened there, and I'm still kind of shocked about that.
Well, everything's changed since Phil,
Yeah.
or since teams have taken over the control of the media.
Mm-hmm.
Where before we used to have total access.
Mm-hmm.
I remember way back covering the game, and Harold Katz. Uh, Harold Katz is behind me, and said some really bad things about the players. And I wasn't I wasn't good enough at that time to really pursue it or know what to do. But Phil was all over it. Like Phil, and this was said walking out of the arena, out of the spectrum, and no one doubled back like Phil Jasner doubled back. So he would get something from one of the guys, then he would go to somebody else and say, "What do you think?" And that was the luxury of having a 6 a.m. deadline. And Phil was the master, the absolute master at that. And I got to see it firsthand. That type of journalism for the most part, is gone. Um, Mostly because of deadlines now. They're like 8:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything is about digital, which I fully understand. But the the art of chasing a story is dwindling, and I think it's because of the way papers are set up now. I mean, you know, uh, starting at the Daily News and the Inquirer. I mean, the deadlines were like 12:30 at one point. And then it went back to 11:30. Then it went back to 11. Then it went to 10. And then they sold the plant, their printing press, and now they're at the mercy of another paper, and it goes back to 8:30. An 8:30 deadline in sports is
That's tough.
it's terminal. It's digging your own grave. Is what it's doing. Um, and the art of storytelling has also taken a hit. Um, where I don't want to sound like the guy, get off my lawn type of thing, but I mean, back in the day, we had nothing. I mean, I would go to baseball games. And I have to take my baseball encyclopedia with me. And if you ever seen one of those things, I mean, it's like a small car. It was huge. And nowadays, you have every single thing you need right here,
Mm-hmm.
right at your fingertips. And the the younger writers today are not using that information fully. And we would have killed to to have had one of those in the press box. You know what I mean? So the art of storytelling, the art of writing on deadline, the art of just, like I said, chasing down the stories. It's gonna be a lost art in about 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. I mean, the story, chasing down a story. I mean, everything's print now is online, but you don't even see stories anymore from any of the major publications. Well, not I shouldn't say shouldn't. Like you don't see many of them. It's
No,
quick hitters, recaps of games, 30-second reads. It's not just click. We all complain about the media going the clickbait route with things, but it's also pretty simply, it's just quick. It's just like a tweet is quick, a quick story. There's no in-depth, interviews and stories being put out there. Is there not an audience for it anymore? Is the attention span because of the internet, kind of because I would still much rather read one really in-depth article than 10 really short, quick hitting pieces.
and as an editor, I would rather read one really good in-depth article
Mm-hmm.
instead of a bunch of game stories.
Mm-hmm.
Game stories are boring.
Mm-hmm.
people have already moved on from games the second that game's over. But if you can tell them what really happened, like, what about that one play where Tobias was wide open in the corner and Embiid didn't throw him the ball, or Tobias has the ball and Maxey's open. Why didn't he get the ball? Like that type of stuff. People want to read that in today's environment. They want to read the behind the scenes stuff. They want to read the stuff that no one else can tell them, and there's not enough of that. There's just not enough of that. And and that, to me, that's the hard part. But I mean, I knew it was time to get out.
And you
Because,
spent what 35 years working for the Inquirer, the Philadelphia
well,
Daily News, the
it's
Morning
actually
Call.
over 40. It was actually
Okay.
over 40, but I was at real quick. I was at the Norristown Times Herald back in the day when it was a really good little paper. Then moved up to the Morning Call. I was an editor up there for 20 years. And then I've been at the Inquirer Daily News was there since 2010. But the problem was, at the end of the day, it was really difficult, rushing and killing ourselves to hit a deadline that no one cared about. When people are out there, people aren't reading the paper anymore. I mean, I'm being realistic.
No,
I mean, circulation
I
tells
can't
me.
tell you the last time I bought a newspaper.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not
me
lying.
neither.
And I grew up, with the Delco Times coming to my doorstep every single day, and every Sunday, edition of the Inquirer delivered to my doorstep every day. Hell, my dad and I delivered them on the weekends for a stretch. Like that was like nothing excited me as a kid more than going and opening up the newspaper, opening up the sports section, looking for Phil Jasner or looking for one of the Eagles reporters
Jack
or Phillies.
McCaffrey.
I loved him at the Delco Times. He was a big part of the Delco Times back in the 80s or 90s
That's my
when I was
guy.
younger.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
But the art of that, I can't tell you last time I did that. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And I feel bad to an extent.
Why do you think I got, at the end of the day, why do you think I went into journalism? It wasn't my first choice, which is crazy looking back at it, because it was the perfect career for me. But yeah, I used to pick up the paper every day, check the batting averages every day.
Absolutely.
I'd read all the notes. I always loved the notes part of a game story. And people in sports and the old bulletin, like stuff like that. I mean, I love that stuff. I couldn't get enough of it. And even the journal when it came around, so yeah, it was in my blood. I just didn't realize it until I was in my mid-20s. But it's just not the same anymore. It's just not the same. The personalities aren't there. The quality isn't there. I mean, I feel bad for the people who do buy the paper now, because it's ridiculously overpriced and you're not getting any news in it. The only way to save newspapers, if they wanted to save it, and it would mean changing a lot of schedules and a lot of things, which I don't think management wants to put the effort into doing, would be to go to an afternoon paper where your deadline will be like 6 o'clock in the morning, like the old days, 7 o'clock in the morning. But at least when it hits the street, the readers are going to get the full game story, or they're going to get, how the Phillies did last night, or, that type of stuff. Where now it's really difficult to get a paper and find news in it. And that's one of the things that the newspaper business is going to have to decide. But it's also the same industry that let the internet totally bury it, and they never adjusted to it. And in some places, it's the same people who led the papers down that path who are still there. And the whole mindset has to change. So
Does it? I mean, you're talking about the writing disappearing and the not getting the stories, but then there's also the clickbait, the headlines, the things that get people to click on nonsense stories. Does that bother you sometimes? That even just the headlines of art. Like, no offense, and I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but there's a guy that I used to read a lot of, and he gets a lot of criticism now because of his clickbait headlines at the Inquirer, and it's sport, and it's like, like it frustrates me, like that, that this is where it's at. You see WIP with headlines of, should we trade Jalen Hurts because he's too short? The other day, call into the show. Like, that alone has ruined media to an extent.
WIP needs the clickbait because that's how they get the people to call in, and I totally get that. That makes all the sense in the world. But before, writers do not write the headlines. Writers do not write the cut lines. Writers only write the articles. So it's whoever is handling that story digitally, whatever editor is handling that story digitally, they're the ones writing the headlines. Okay, so if let's say Keith Pompey writes a story, and and then you read the story, and then you realize the headline has nothing to do with what's below it, then Keith didn't write the headline. So there's that.
By the way, that's not who I was hinting at.
No. Okay. I'm just saying. I'm just mentioning Keith.
I'll just say it, like Marcus Hayes.
Keith's
Marcus Hayes
guy.
Marcus Hayes is a guy I was reading for ages. Marcus Hayes, and he's come under a lot of fire in the last couple of years because of headlines, and he constantly has to defend exactly what you said. He doesn't write the headlines; he just writes the stories.
Yeah.
But again, to an extent, it's a trap. To an extent, and I know it offends a lot of listeners, readers, and stuff like that out there.
Hey, let me tell you something, Marcus. I love Marcus to death. Like, to love Marcus is to know Marcus, and Marcus loves stirring things up, and that's what you want from a columnist. Yeah. And I think sometimes when you read Marcus, if you're writing a headline, things can be misconstrued a little bit. And a lot of times, if I had a question about a headline for print, I would ask Marcus if it was okay. To make sure.
I was going to ask you that. Does someone like Marcus Hayes or Keith Pompey, if you're the person making the headline, can they go to you and say, I don't like this headline, or are you the guy that's got the final say on it?
They don't see the headline till the paper comes out.
Oh, okay.
All right. So if I have let's put it this way, if you're not sure about a headline, if you're asking someone about it, then you're not sure about it.
Right.
So, and that's why I've always had that philosophy. Plus, I love communicating with the writers. I always think that's important, especially nowadays when we're all working from home. It's like, knock, knock, we're still here. Copy editors do write the headlines in print. So I've always liked that. I've always liked the communication, and I think that's huge. But for me, I always looked at a writer's story, their bylines on it. All right. So if there's a painting and the painter signed it on the bottom, that's his work. He has to be accountable for that work. My job was to clean it up and make sure it was right. Okay. Then if I had a question about it, I would call the writer up or whatever the case may be. So I didn't change a whole lot like that when I edited, unless it really, really, really needed it. And if it really, really needed it, the writer and I are going to have that discussion, which I think is just the right way to do things. Because, like I said, it's their byline, man. It's so you really have to respect that.
Absolutely.
So that's
you say that print media might be gone in 10 years. What's the next? I mean, we've seen so many evolutions of media over the last, let's say, 10 years. And after COVID started, every, person just like me starting up YouTube shows and websites and stuff like that, have found room to get some clicks, to get some stories, to get some, momentum. What's the next evolution? If print media goes away completely, what's next?
All right. In 2009, I was laid off at the Morning Call. Okay. I had a conversation with Pat McClune, who's the managing editor of the Daily News at the time. And God bless Pat McClune. And I just wrote him and said, we're in a profession that's dying. It's dying. And that was 2009. Then in 2015, there was huge layoffs where all the people basically most of the people from the Daily News got laid off. Huge mistake, but that's besides the point. I did not think the Daily News would make it to the following Christmas. All right, that was 9 years ago. So the problem is right now is that the paper actually makes more money than digital does. So they can't let print go anytime soon because it's the only thing bringing money in. I don't know how it's bringing in money, but apparently it's bringing in money. So that's an issue. So I think the paper will be around as long as the advertisers are backing it, and as long as it's bringing in money. Once it stops bringing in money and digital passes it as a moneymaker, then you'll see the switch.
Can a digital place, push something big? Like there's a million little, websites, and some have credentials and stuff like that. But could a digital website kind of overtake one of these newspapers as the top?
But it has to be really good.
Get one of the big name reporters writing for them or something like that. Can they overtake it?
At the end of the day, people don't care who's writing it.
Okay.
I mean, back in the day, yeah. What's Stan Hockman writing about today? What's this guy writing about today? And you want to go back and look at it. You don't have that as much anymore. I mean, same thing. Like Mike Sielski is one hell of a writer. I mean, and a fantastic, tremendous storyteller. Okay, I love reading Mike's stuff, but I don't think people are out there saying, I got I got to go read Marcus. I got to go read Mike. You know what I mean? That type of thing. I just don't think people are doing that anymore. I just think you need just quality stuff. Now, if as soon as that Phillies game is over, how many people are going to Inquirer.com to read the stories, or the Sixers, or maybe the Eagles, because the Eagles are huge. People want.
I think more people aren't doing that. I think more people are going to YouTube to watch one of the 30 post-game shows. Phillies, Sixers.
So why doesn't
Eagles.
the Inquirer have a 30? Why doesn't the Inquirer have a post-game show?
They should. The Inquirer could have a YouTube page with 40 million subscribers. Like, maybe that's a big exaggeration number. They can have the subscribers they can make. You can make money doing like this. Why don't they? Why has it? I mean, I know there's Jacob Media and the PHLY or whatever, the All City New Philly team. I used to, love the Daily News live show that was on.
Oh my God, it was great.
Fantastic. You get to hear your writers. It
got Dick Girardi into a suit, for crying out loud.
But I used to love that. Why hasn't, like, I know, like, channels like NBC Sports Philadelphia, they've gone away from local programming, but I can't believe an online site. You've got Jacob and All City, PHLY, whatever it's called. They're paying all these guys, but they're not utilizing what they're paying in the right avenues.
It comes down to management,
for sure.
And it comes down to vision. You have to want to be the go-to. Okay. Now, the Inquirer, they're not fooling the readers that much, because at the Inquirer they go by subscriptions and how many subscriptions you generated. And I have back when I was there, I would have access to that. And to me, the number of subscriptions matched the our opinion of each particular writer. And you could also see which beats were being handled better and which weren't. You can see all that stuff, but they're subscription based, and they're not fooling the readers. Now, they've set a pretty low bar, at least I think, as far as the number of subscriptions they should be getting. And I think that's basically because of content. Content needs to improve, and people need to be accountable for that content. So, and that's where you kind of get into the clickbait stuff. It's a fine line. Like, okay, do I write about something controversial so I can get this? I can get the subs to I can get more subs, or do I really go out there and get the really good story? You know what I mean? That type of thing. And that's where the editors, the digital editors come in. So that's to me where they need to be. They need to be they need Inquirer.com, whether it's news, sports, or whatever, to be the go-to. Like as soon as that game is over, you're not going to ESPN, you're not going to Yahoo, you're not going to anywhere. You're going right to the Inquirer.com, and that's where they need to be. And I'm not sure they're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're retired now. You said not 35, 40 years in the business. What is a typical, like when you do something for 40 years and then you retire? Yeah, it's great, but then you also just got to sit there and think, what do I do now? So what's the day in the life of Mark now that you're retired?
It's the greatest thing, the greatest move I ever made, because now the time is mine. And there's projects I've done in the house where I would only get like an hour or two to do them before, because I would have to start work. Now I can actually get stuff done.
Well, you can come to my house. I just bought a house and there's like 8,000 projects to do. So just come
Yeah,
on over. You
yeah,
could take anyone off my list.
yeah. So there's that. Um, there's just the lack of stress. Meeting those 8:30 deadlines were it was getting really bad. And it's really, really difficult, especially when you want to get everything right. I've read other papers and you see typos all over the place. Um, I'd like to think that, the crew that we put out a clean paper every night. And that's not easy. That takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of passion and takes a lot of people who care. And thank God, management at the Inquirer is very, very, very fortunate to have people who really care, especially on the print side, who really care about what they do. There's some people digital side, obviously same thing, but I can't talk for them. I can only talk for our guys who work on a deadline every night, and it's not easy. So I don't miss that. My first day, I usually started like 1:30 in the afternoon, and then 2:30 would have a budget meeting and talk about what stories were coming in. And my first day off, I didn't even realize it was 1:30. That's when I knew I made the right move. So I'm looking to do a lot of traveling and just spending time with my wife, who was very patient with me for been 43 years.
Yeah, my
And
wife's patient with me, and I just do this 90 minutes a day, and I can't believe she allows me to do it for 90 minutes a day. You know what I
she's a
can
good
get done around this house in 90 minutes a day?
She's a good wife. That's why she respects what you're doing. And that's how my wife is like, if you truly believe in this, go for it. That type of thing. But I mean, talking about crazy hours. I mean, we work nights, and I have 3 kids, and she's home alone with the kids on my days, when I'm working, and so. Um, yeah, so now's the time for us to spend our time together and just go out and do stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, Mark, final question as I get you
Yeah,
out of here, so
no
you can
problem.
enjoy the rest of your retirement day. If I
You
don't
too.
ask this question of every guest for at least 3 weeks, the commenters will remind me that I did not ask the question. So it is
Okay.
a requirement of every guest that comes on this show. Very simple. Godfather or Goodfellas? You have to choose one.
Man,
I always think it's a tough question because they're both,
it's a
in
really
my
tough
opinion,
question, and I'll
excellent
tell
films.
you why. Godfather was Al Pacino and De Niro and James Caan, and the cinematography was just phenomenal. Like when I watch The Godfather every single time, it's like I can't believe how well made this movie is. Okay,
And at the time
and
frame it was made.
it grabs me, but it's also 3 hours long. Okay, with Goodfellas, it's Pesci. I don't care about anybody else. It's Pesci. Like that's all I think about. And I love Joe Pesci. Okay, so for me, it's really really tough. Like when they're both on, I gotta watch them. But I think I'm quicker to watch Goodfellas than I am to watch The Godfather.
It's an easier watch when you've already seen it for sure.
Oh yeah. especially when you got guys hanging from a meat hook in a freaking locker, in a freezer.
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever done it years and years ago because he's not around anymore. But the real Henry Hill did in between commercial break commentary on each scene, and instead of the commercials, and that made I don't know. Just hearing the real Henry Hill tell the stories that were being told in the movie in real time, it was like that just put it over the top for me. It's so great to hear from the actual source material there.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story that it's kind of Godfellas related, Goodfellas related. Yeah, I was combining the two. That I live right near railroad tracks, and sometimes they send a helicopter over to check out the tracks and stuff. And I hear the helicopter overhead, and I think I went to Twitter and I read, "There's a helicopter over my house. I throw my Doritos down the toilet."
Oh man.
But
Anyway,
it was a great that was a great story, and it was fast moving. So yeah, I think if put a gun to my head, not literally, it'll be Goodfellas.
you wouldn't know the gun, like they say at the end of Goodfellas, you wouldn't know you're getting whacked because you're just whacked. That's how you know
Yeah,
it's
there you
the
go.
police and not one of your gangster friends right there. Mark, thank you very much for your time. A lot of great, insightful information.
That's a
I enjoy
pleasure.
the conversation online as well, regularly with you.
That won't stop.
Yeah, no, definitely. Whether we agree or disagree, that's what's good about
Oh
it.
no,
You know what I mean?
that's the best part.
That is, as long as more people need to engage in dialogue and less in just trashing each other on social media.
Just be civil.
I don't
Just
know.
be
Eric thinks
civil.
you're a saint. I don't know. You agree with that comment from Eric or not?
What?
He says you're a saint for the way you're talking here today.
Wow. I've never been anointed before.
No, no. I always tell my wife I'm a
I
martyr, and she
appreciate it.
says, "Well,
Thank
you have."
you.
I always tell my wife I'm a martyr, and she says, "Well, you have to die to be a martyr." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
And she goes after you with a knife.
Anyway, guys, make sure you guys shoot Mark a follow. He's really easy to find on social media. It's just at Mark Perner. And give him a follow. He does some great basketball insight. And I'm sure once you start traveling and you take that trip, we'll see some comments and some pictures from your travels as well.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. But real quick, I, I always have an opinion, but it doesn't mean I'm always right.
Yeah, I always tell people my opinions aren't always right. I give everybody that watches this show every day the opportunity to change my opinion, and sometimes they do. Some people tell me I'm a flip flopper, but I'm not a flip flopper. I'm just evolving my opinion, is what I say.
I love that. I do. When I'm in the conversation, like I mentioned Will Rucker earlier, and I
Mhm.
talk to Will all the time. A lot of times it'll be, we'll be DMing each other about certain things, and that is the best conversation because you can learn from it.
Mhm.
You're not, your opinion isn't the only one out there.
Mhm.
And if I write something and then Will will write me and say, nah, that'll never happen or blah, 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 blah. And then we'll say, well, so what do you think will happen? And then we go back and forth on that. And that's the best part of, that's what I enjoy about it. I don't enjoy any, I don't enjoy being combative. I'm just like, I'm out of here, pal. I'm done. So yeah, let's just have the conversation. Like right here. That's the best way to do things.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. I promised you 30 minutes, and we're at almost 60 here. So I apologize for that. But
Oh
you
no,
have a
I
great day,
love
and
it. I
we'll
love it.
have to do this again. I'll have to get you on later in the off season or before the season starts to talk a little bit more Sixers basketball.
Yeah. Well, one last thing. I'm actually going to be on a trip during the trade deadline. I mean,
Okay.
during the draft, and I think I'm going to be in some places where I'm going to be off the grid,
That's
and
fine.
that's going to kill me.
It's gonna kill you, but it's also nice to get off the grid occasionally.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm still going, right? Like I didn't
Yeah,
stop. I didn't
yeah,
stop myself from going,
yeah.
so I'm still going. So it can't be that bad. So I can't wait.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark, for your time today.
My pleasure. Keep in
Ha-
touch.
Have a good one. That was Mark Perner, guys. Make sure you guys shoot him a follow. That was, guys, I missed a lot of comments, a lot of conversations here. I don't know what's going on in the comment section. I got the Godfather question for you guys. But we got to start the wrap up process here. It is 9:30 already this morning. One final shout out, Dolan's Bar in Ridley Park. Make sure you check them out. Let PJ and the crew there know you heard about Dolan's Bar right here on EOP. and Trending in the AM, a legend in Ridley Park for the last 65 plus years. Check them out. Also, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to the EOP channels. I'll be live back tonight, 6 o'clock, Fairway to Heaven with Matt Miller from the Draws and Fades podcast, and Rotoballer, talking the PGA Championship. Jason and I and Matt Miller breaking down all the gambling, but also after that, you've got 4 other great shows tonight on EOP Sports here, and shows 7 days a week right here on the channel. So make sure you're hitting that like button, that share button, that subscribe button, that follow button. Guys, we'll get back to the conversation tomorrow. I mean, I could use it. My links are in the bottom. You can tip me if you want. Tomorrow, Buddy Walters, CEO and agent for Pro Level Sports Agency. We're going to talk about some of the clients that he's had in rookie mini camps. We're going to talk about some of the NFL rule changes with him, and just general NFL topics with him, and what it's like being an agent and growing his agency. So another interesting, fun guest tomorrow on the show, as we continue to power through the dead zone of the offseason here. But everybody have a great day. That was a great guest. I agree. So much great insight, so thoughtful and intelligent and everything. I feel like I learned something today. I hope you did. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up the show there for today. I am Phil Stiefel, your host, Trending in the AM on Edge of Philly Sports. Guys, like, share, subscribe, follow, retweet, share. Whatever you could do, please do it. Back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. Tonight, 6 p.m., guys. I'll see you guys later. Go Birds. Ring the bell. Brotherly love, whatever it is. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.